Hello, sports fans. Welcome. Yours truly, Coach Kevin Bull Jones. I told you I was coming back, and we starting off this season on my podcast, Coach One Sports. I'm gonna start it with a great friend of mine, also as well as a coaching colleague and mentor. And once again, sports fans, like I mentioned to you in my intro last week, all this is about is just from a coach's perspective. I want to be able to give people a chance that, we coach in our daily lives and something that we do. We're mentoring the people, talking to people. But here in Coach One Sports, it's not just about who's going to win the national championship and talk about defenses, offenses. It's also talking about coach life and our journeys, what we go through, the peaks and valleys, the highs and the lows, the things that motivate us to be as good as we are at what we do. And in some cases be on an exceptional level, in some cases just be in tough situations. But nevertheless, it gives us a chance to share with you, the viewers, coaches, non-coaches, parents, players, anybody that tunes into Coach One Sports. You get a chance to hear from us and how we do it. And I wanted to bring a special friend of mine on today. This man is a former Morehouse College player. He played from 88 to 91. A great friend of mine. I've had the pleasure of knowing him, not just on the coaching level, but also in regards to recruiting and things of that nature. And so the relationships are real, sports fans. And I wanted to bring him on today so we can just talk about his journey. He's like I said, he was played at Morehouse College. Also, his claim is some of the things he's done, been a GA at Boston College. Spent 3 or 4 years with UMass, University of Massachusetts, won a national title there as a coach there, back when it was still a 1AA FCS deal, but has national champion coach experience on his resume. From there, he went to Cornell University where he was a position coach, followed that by going to Lehigh, and was there for quite a while from 2004, 2011. And in fact, there as a DC, coaching those great teams at Lehigh. And that's where he got a chance to, and we'll talk about it later, one of his favorite players of all time that he recruited from me in my high school coach years. And from there, he went to Seton Hall, where he's with DC. And after his trek to Seton Hall, he went on and stepped on to the HBCU side. He was at Delaware State as a DC. From Delaware State, he then went up to Division I football. He went to Rice University and was there for 4 years and had a great time as a defensive back coach. And I also want to add that in between all of those stops in his career of coaching, he also did numerous internships on the NFL Bill Walsh internship level. And sports fans, for Black coaches that take this journey and trek into collegiate football, whether it's NAIA, Division II, JUCO, 1AA, and of course Division I. This is a person that has hit quite a few of those levels, if most of all those levels. And it's just a pleasure that he's a good friend of mine. But more importantly, I wanted him to bring on the show to start off talking about that journey and what it takes to make that happen. Because listen, sports fans, everybody sees what happens on Saturday afternoon. They enjoy what they see, but the work behind it is tremendous. So without further ado, I'm not going to do my real impersonation of Shannon Sharp. I tried that with Shay Shay. It kind of failed because I'm really better than that. But nevertheless, my friend, Coach Gerard Wilcher, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, my brother. How you doing?
Hey, listen, it's that time of the year. And I told you I was coming back. And so we back. But I wanted to bring you on because before this collegiate season starts, it's just so much going on in the coaching world, especially for coaches of African-American descent and people just trying to make those moves to various levels. And the journey's real. The friendships are real. And that's why I wanted you just to enlighten. How did this all get started for you when you left Morehouse College playing defensive back in 1991?
Well, let me tell you, it's been a crazy journey, right? When I graduated, well, let me say this, my senior year, we tied for the conference championship, first conference championship since 1979. It was a 5-way tie in the SIAC. It was crazy. But we got a little piece of that ring. But I had a young defensive back coach, Brian Bassard, and he was like 2 years older than me. He was so cool. I was a finance major. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And at that time, we didn't have sports management. Gotcha. So I always joke and say, hey, look, I took finance, but all my electives were PE. So really, I'm the first sports management major there is, right?
Okay.
Because we didn't have it back in the early 90s. Gotcha. But so I guess started there. And I actually took a job at the University of Delaware as a graduate assistant. Went up, interviewed, and it's like Memorial Day weekend. I'm ready to pack up my stuff and pull out. Head coach Craig Kaysen calls me.
Craig Kaysen, yeah.
He says, come talk to me. I was like, all right, coach, I got you. And he's like, look, you don't want to be nobody's GA. You don't want to be running around going to the cleaners, washing people's cars, going to get coffee. Because back in the day, that's what GAs did.
Gotcha.
He was like, why don't you stay here with us? I'm going to give you your own position. I'm going to give you a little apartment on campus. I'm going to pay you about $7,000 and you can go substitute teach and make up the difference. I was like, you mean I get to do my own thing? He's like, yeah, but you got to coach running backs. I'm like, bet, coach, let's go. So that's where the journey started. Making $7,000, living in an apartment in Mays Hall, grinding every single day. I was in charge of video. And you know, I was laughing because we have these discussions and things that these young folks don't understand. When I started, we go on tape to tape, pack the tapes up, put them in the box, take them to the Greyhound bus station, put them on the bus and send them somewhere. Or I had to get in my car and go to some random Waffle House in South Georgia off of some random exit with no cell phone and hope that dude showed up on time. Right. So it was crazy beginning. Did 3 years, 2 years in offense, went back to defense for 1 year, and then we got fired. My first experience being fired. But it was crazy because we were told, and let me back up, Craig Kaysen came in and put us on contracts like the Ivy League schools had. We were June to June contracts. So if you fire me early, you got to pay me, right? So they fire us after the season, but before the season started, they told us our contracts were held up because there was a school audit. Okay, I got you. We go ahead and work. We do our deal. We love the kids. We get fired. I'm like, well, y'all owe me to June because I got a contract. It's like, no, you don't. You never signed a new contract. I'm like, oh, this is a dirty game. Out the gate, I learned fast, right? So, all right, so then we end up settling, getting some money, get half the money, of course. And then I leave there. I go to Cheney for spring practice.
Okay.
I met Cheney, and I tell my boy, Chico Williams, I said, look, man, I'll stay with you if you make me the offensive coordinator. Chico said, no. Everybody doesn't get the opportunity to go to Boston College. You need to go because we don't all get that opportunity.
Okay.
Pivotal moment. So I go to Boston College. I'm there 2 years. We get fired because of the gambling scandal in 95. So they've had two major gambling scandals. So really, because of what happened to us it was actually 96, that's why we have the signs around the universities that say, don't bet on it.
Gotcha.
Because our dudes was betting on games, betting to lose, betting against themselves. And this is before online gambling was legal.
How about that?
Right. So if you can imagine, we play a game. I think we lost to Syracuse. Head coach comes in and says, hey, man, somebody gambling. You know, everybody look around like, not me. And Dan Henning says,
The Dan
Henning.
Okay.
Steps up and says, if y'all don't give it up, this is over. So don't nobody give it up. He said, well, gentlemen, it's been real. Walks out the room. State's attorney walks in with the FBI. They start picking dudes out the room, taking them to their dorm rooms, going to get laptops. You know what I'm saying? And we kept a bottle of scotch in the office, went back upstairs, had a drink, called my mama, was like, Ma, you're going to see some stuff on Nightline News, but I ain't do it, I swear. I ain't know about it, right? Because I'm grinding. So that's how Boston College went. But let me tell you, for you young coaches, one other story that happened at Boston College my first year, The defense coordinator was an old crusty dude named Jack Stanton. Brilliant. Coming out the NFL.
Yes.
You remember, was that Florida State for a long time?
Yes, Florida State. Yeah, I was going to say.
Brilliant dude. Got his playbook right there.
Yeah.
So this dude didn't like the reports that the system produced. He liked the reports that he had when he was with the Raiders. And he still had his computer with those reports. So mind you, I had to break the film down, enter all the data, and back then it was only 2 GAs, one offense, one defense.
One defense, right.
Enter all the data in the computer so it can match up to the film.
Right.
Print a report, take my information, go to his house on Monday morning, sit there all day and re-enter all the data for 4 games. So approximately 350, 400 plays.
Right.
Re-enter in the system so I could produce his reports.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's how I spent my first year as a GA. Like class, they was like, yeah, if you make it to class, you can go, but make sure your work is
class.
done.
What's that?
Right. What's that? You know? So then we end up leaving. Tom O'Brien comes in, Al Golden, Mike London, great coaches, you know. I should also mention on my original staff was Dirk Cutter, George Warhop, Terry Malone, Jerry Azanero, Bill McGovern, like some tremendous dudes on that staff. And the reason I got that job was Billy Thompson, who was in charge of hiring the black GA because they needed one, said, I didn't know you from Adam, but I knew you went to Morehouse, and I watched The Cosby Show, so I knew you had to be black. That's how I got in the room for the interview, right? And then, you know, once you're in there, you get the job. So I leave there.
Oh man!
And I have like 3 choices on the table. Wow. Somebody got me a GA at Michigan, but I didn't want a GA again. I had a job at Hofstra, but I was trying to get married, and we already had a son. You don't go to Long Island for peanuts.
Gotcha.
Right? So then I go UMass, Amherst, Jerry Azanero. I'm there 1 season. We go 2-9. We get fired. I get rehired, but I got to go coach from outside linebackers, go coach the receivers.
Okay.
Fortunately for me, I got you, coach. I'll coach the hell out of them. I call Billy White Shoes Johnson. I come to Atlanta. Billy, teach me how to coach receivers. Right? And then from then on, my group, we got rolling. We was known as BIB, best in the business. BIB. And all we did was make plays. Our job was to make the quarterback better. There was no bitching, no nothing allowed. Right? Your job is to make that dude look better.
Right.
And that's how we did it. And we won the national championship doing that.
Right.
You know, I also had the transfer from SMU, Jimmy Moore, who caught like 91 passes that year in 15 games.
Okay.
5'10", 4'6", the truth. But he was an option quarterback in high school. Gotcha. So it was an easy transition. And he could play all 4 wide receiver positions. So we just move him around. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody in the stadium knew he was getting the ball, but you had to find him.
Right.
You know. So I do that. And then I hit a point in my career where I want to be a coordinator. It's 2001. It's time to be a coordinator.
Now, what made you, you know, it's, you know, people, everybody thinks they can be a coordinator. Everybody thinks they can call the shots. You know, the young coaches, you know, when they come in on your staff, all the stuff you talked about that you just did to get to where you were. I wasn't a coordinator in high school until year, I want to say 9.
Okay.
And I know I wasn't ready before then. But you know, today's coach, and I'm gonna call it what it is. You know, these young guys, they think they're ready they're ready. You know, you got to go into that gunfight, and you know, you got to make the call. It all sounds good when you're sitting in the stands and people talking about what they would do.
Yeah.
But the decisions you make are for eternity.
Right.
According to whatever the player does on that execution of the play. And sometimes it's not him. It's just the other kid was better on that play. But of course, I want you to go further with that turn, when you made that turn, when you decided.
So what happened was, so Mark Whipple was my head coach. Brilliant offensive mind. Donnie Brown was the defensive coordinator. Donnie Brown from Michigan, UMass, defense coordinator. Well, when we had the spring game, they would let the assistant coaches call the plays. They never called plays.
Oh,
So we each divided up the game and took series. So that helped me. I had to go make a call sheet, right? Or I had to take his call sheet and figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, what I run, how did I see it, right? And I used to score touchdowns, dog, right? I was putting the ball in the zone, coaching receivers. So I was like, man, I'm ready. But I knew Whip was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Right. So I was never going to get that job. And it's 2001. There really weren't any black offensive coordinators in the country in 2001, not at Division I.
Right. Wow.
How about that? So I go back. I go to Cornell. I get a job at Cornell coaching defense because my second year at Boston College, the defensive coordinator was Phil Elmation, the man who brought the 8-man front, the G defense to Virginia Tech, was the defensive coordinator. So I learned the G defense from him.
Okay.
They wanted to run that. So then that's how I got the job. Now, when I interviewed, somebody told me I knocked the interview out of the park and I left the head coach speechless, right? So what happened was he asked me one of them interview questions. He's like, well, what percentage do you see playing each front? And I looked at him and I said, well, how good is your offense? Because if you're not very good, I'm playing bear in the 8-man front because I got to stop the run.
Correct.
If you scoring a lot of points, we in that 4-3, 4-2-5. I'm playing pass defense. I really don't have to mess with the bear or the G, except for first down, maybe. But if you're really good, like we were at UMass, and we could put up 35, 40 a game, I'm playing pass defense because you got to catch up.
Correct.
And after I get the job, somebody tells me like that the head guy was like stumped, and he was kind of pissed that I gave him that answer. But that's a true answer. That's about as real as you can get. So I'm at Cornell for 3 years. We get let go. Side note, Sunday meetings after your last game with the AD, they always suck. You're probably getting fired. Side note. So I leave Cornell and I get the job at Lehigh. Okay. And one of the reasons I get the job at Lehigh is because me and the head coach then, Pete Limbo, used to battle each other in recruiting in Detroit. And I beat him on a dog in Detroit. Little wide receiver from Brother Rice over in Detroit, Anthony Jackson. Go get it. Special little dude. Ended up playing at Cornell. And he was pissed because he pulled out all the tricks, all the stops. But I always had one more for him. So then I'm at Lehigh. First year, position coach. Second year, I'm the defensive coordinator. We go 8-3. Limbo leaves, but doesn't take any of us with him. Well, let me say this. He told us we had to make a decision on who wanted to come. And if too many of us wanted to come, then he would have to make some tough decisions.
Now, these are the conversations that are happening during the end of the season or after the season, correct?
This is after we were actually on the road recruiting when he got the job at Elon. And, it was one of those things. Head coach disappears for 48 hours and then shows back up. Something going on during recruiting season. Somebody getting a job. Somebody interviewing. So you've met my wife, my lovely wife.
Yes.
And I had to call her and was like, yo, Limbo got a job. And, we need to have some discussions about whether we going.
Where are we going or not?
Yeah. She told me we wasn't going.
She told me
in so many words. She was like, well, why he do it like that? He told you if you interviewing, he want to know. So how come when he interviewing, he not telling you?
Correct.
I said, all right. I said, well, guess we had to go look for a job. So fortunately, I got rehired. Joe Starrett took care of me when he rehired me. When I got rehired on the new staff at Lehigh, he never really bumped my pay from being a coordinator.
Oh.
So now I'm there. So
you're not the coordinator.
I'm not the coordinator. I'm the DB coach, but I'm making coordinator money. Kind of hard to leave.
Absolutely.
And at that time, I'm looking at MAC, DB jobs, corner jobs. They paying $35,000. I'm making twice as much as a Patriot League DB coach. I'm like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm good.
Right.
So I ride that out. Dave Kotowski comes in. I learned the 3-4 from him. And we were a little different in our 3-4. Then we were able to evolve it to like a 3-4 with 4-2-5 personnel. So we never really had to substitute unless it was third and extra long.
Correct.
And we used to give people hell. Once we really got it going, we went 11-4 in 2010. Then we were like,
so that's the time when you came down to recruit.
I came
to Will Rackley.
Yeah, I came to get Will. Will graduated in 2011, so I came to get him in 2007. And just so you all know that Coach Bull, he the man. He had a couple studs in there, and he treated me, Georgia Tech in there, Lehigh in there, and he gave me my shot. And let's just say somebody here beat Georgia Tech on the kid who became a third-round draft pick, offensive lineman. But I did my due diligence and got him back up there. And he started probably every game except for one.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't start his first game. They put him in there. And they used to be a strong side, quick side tackle. They would flip their tackles based on what they flipped the line. And once Will came in, he was the left tackle, and they stopped flipping.
Right.
They were like, we don't need to do that no more. He left side.
Sports fans, I'm not going to give the name of that very successful NFL / Georgia Tech coach, but the nature of what G is mentioning is, I just as a high school coach, you want to you're all giddy and excited about coaches coming to see the kids. And Will was a tweener at that time. He was definitely not 6'2". He was probably 165 soaking wet with rocks in his pocket. And I forced him to wrestle for me because I was a head wrestling coach at Riverdale High School and head football coach. And I forced Will to wrestle, and he lost all the baby fat and he got strong. And eventually he would sneak into the weight room all hours of the night. So yes, Clayton County, when the alarm went off, that was Will in there lifting weights. I'm telling now, 15 years later. But yes, he, that coach from Georgia Tech just kept telling me why Will wasn't going to make it. And I just finally said, well, hey, listen, I appreciate you coming, but I got Coach Wilcher here from Lehigh, and he wants to talk to Will. So I guess our business is done. I enjoyed talking to you. And the thing that coach said as he walked out the door, I'll never forget this. He said, I'm probably going to regret not recruiting him.
Yeah.
But the people above me just he wasn't the eye candy they were looking for, but he checked all the boxes. Well, the rest is history. That coach got fired and he went on to the Buffalo Bills, and then he had to coach against Will Rackley in the NFL. So, and
let me tell you another great story about Will. So when I bring Will's tape back, y'all know Coach Bull loved his triple option back in the day, right? So Will was playing in a 4-point stance, just dominating dudes. So when I bring him back, I'm like, I'm not sure if the offense is going to love him, but I'm going to show him to the defensive coordinator because we are 3-4. So he could play a 3 or 4-eye. You know what I mean? Yeah. He'd been to hell because he was strong, barrel-chested.
Yeah.
And the defensive coordinator was like, I don't see it. All they do is play offense. I was like, all right. So I take him to offense, whatever, and had to play a little game where I convinced them that he was going to trip Lafayette and Colgate, two of our biggest rivals, and we were never going to get a visit. So we brought him up. As soon as we walked through the door, the O-line coach was kissing him and hugging him and everything. It was like, gee, why didn't you tell me he looked this good? I was like, I said he looked good. I mean, what you want me to do?
Yeah.
But then, so I get through Lehigh, and after the 2000, I take back over as defensive coordinator in 2012.
Right.
We go 10-1 and did not make the FCS playoffs. One of the biggest disappointments in my life. 10-1, did not make the playoffs. I mean, like, if we got robbed, right? Then the next year we come back 8-3, wasn't as good on defense, had some issues, and I got fired. First time where I personally got fired. I was like,
wait a minute. You said you went 8-3 and you got fired.
Yes, sir. I went 8-3 at Lehigh University and got fired. Got ran up out of there. And they was like, well, it's just not what we thought it was going to be. But we had injuries. We had a lot of issues. We had suspensions that year.
But that doesn't matter on this level. It just doesn't matter.
No. They, so they ran me out of there. And so then I landed at Seton Hill University. I was there for 2 years. Really tough time in the coaching world because I did not move my family from Lehigh Valley. I went and got myself a little apartment, did it for 2 years. And at the time I was leaving, my son was going off to Delaware State. I had 2 daughters at home, so I was always worried, phone parenting. I did my daughter who played field hockey. I did her senior day. I was
didn't have FaceTime back then. Didn't have FaceTime back then.
Well, they was just starting, so I'm on the iPad. She hold me on the iPad like this is senior day, and I'm at.
This is how you raised your daughter.
Yeah, it's how I raised my daughter, my oldest daughter, right? Yeah. And by the way, she's a national champion field hockey player. So we have 2 national championships in the house.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about everybody else, but we get
Right. You can't speak for everybody else. You know what you get.
I can't do it. I can't speak for everybody else, but we got 2.
Yeah.
And so after that, I went and got the defensive coordinator's job at Delaware State. Did that for 2 years.
Went to HBCU.
Went back to HBCU. My son was playing, got a chance to coach my son for 2 years. Had my oldest daughter transfer over there. So it was a great experience, tremendous kids. Scheduling was a problem because part of Coach Carter getting a job, he was able to book the school with some money games.
Right.
But it's tough because the first year we played Missouri. Missouri just wore us out.
Right.
Like, that's SEC.
Right.
We're not a very good FCS program.
Right. That's a check. That's a check game.
Right. That's $600,000. But alumni is.
Did you get all of that, or did the? I shouldn't have asked that question. I'm going to ask the question. Did you get up?
I don't.
Okay, leave it alone. Okay.
Yeah, leave that alone. That money get you in trouble. So then the next year, right, we opened with Delaware. We played Delaware down to the wire. That's $100,000 game. We go play West Virginia for 5-something. Coach, we lined up in unbalanced, got them to make an unbalanced check, and one of our running backs went 82 on West Virginia to the house. First series of the game.
Upset. Yeah.
Right. They had an All-American center, so I stayed in the odd front. And I had 3 noses. Every couple plays, he saw a new nose. I was not going to let that dude off the ball, right? And we hung for about right before halftime.
They got mad.
Away. You know what I mean? Yeah, they got mad, and I ain't care. I had the dudes fired up. Yeah. And then, we go on. We win 3 games that year, but then the last game of the season, we got to play Florida State. And they needed to beat us to get to a bowl game. And Florida State doesn't pay very well to be for this. I think we only made like $375,000.
$375,000.
Yeah. They should pay at least what West Virginia did, $550,000, $600,000. Yeah. But nonetheless, again, alums are mad at us because we playing these games getting our butt kicked, but we just raised $1 million on guarantee money.
Gotcha.
There's no alum giving $1 million to football.
Correct.
Or to the athletic department. I can't even say football. There's nobody doing that. So you got to do what you got to do to survive. I learned that a long time ago. I met Eddie Robinson from Grambling. And he told me he played the Bayou Classic at that time, early 90s, because they give each school $1 million. And he's like, your job is to take care of your institution. So I understand that. So, so now I leave Delaware State, and this is where you talk about relationships matter.
They do. Yeah.
Brian Smith becomes the defensive coordinator at Rice. Well, Brian played for me at UMass. He played corner, and he played strong safety. Great. I'm saying young man. He's like 44 years old. Great dude. Tremendous.
Tell your age, go.
Right. Brilliant defensive coordinator. And then they hire one of my former players, one of my former recruits, Morehouse dude, Cedric Calhoun from Vanderbilt. So when I walked in the room, B and Sid had never worked together, but I had coached both of them.
Gotcha.
And Pete Limbo's on the staff. So when I walk in, I'm throwing names. My DC had left Lehigh, went to Stanford. Boom,
Gotcha.
boom, boom. They was like, how come we don't know you? I was like,
Right.
I can't tell you that. I don't know.
Right.
You know, that's just how life is. And so I did that for 5 years. Great run. We got a little bit better every year. Rice is not an easy place to win.
Right.
Through our studies, Rice is the #2 academic school in the country when it comes to sports.
Wow.
It's Stanford, then it's Rice. Don't let nobody tell you nothing different.
Oh, okay. The media. Okay, gotcha.
Media don't let nobody tell you nothing different.
Okay.
It's Stanford, then it's Rice. Because at Rice, we have to ask kids to take APs.
Gotcha.
So you may be recruiting a top running back in Dallas, and you're like, look, dude, I need you to take 3 APs your senior year. He's like, yeah, coach, I'm good. I'm going someplace else. Right. So I did that for 5 years. And then the Morehouse opportunity opened up. I always wanted to be a head coach.
Right.
You mean, why not go back to my alma mater and give them 30 years of knowledge?
Right.
Just drop it on them. Went back, did that. That lasted about 10 months.
Right.
You know, learned some valuable lessons. You should always trust your gut out the gate. Make your staff your staff. You know, there's a reason why coaches clean house when they come in. I thoroughly understand that. Take your time. But sometimes the timeline you get hired on doesn't allow you to take your time.
Okay.
Right. And you have to do things. If you have a belief, you got to do it your way, which I felt like I did. And one thing I refuse to accept, having gone there, understanding the culture, one thing I refuse to accept is people saying to me, well, this is Morehouse. This is how we've always done it. I'm like, that's unacceptable. Gotcha. 95% of the country does it differently, and they're pretty successful.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's kind of how my journey went. But along the way, man, I've had some crazy jobs. I think we talked the other day. Yeah. You know, I've been a video coordinator. And let me tell you something. I've gone from VHS to Super VHS to DVD to hard drives to portable hard drives to internet. Like, I've done it all. Driven to nowhere. I've been to the Atlanta bus station in the middle of the night to pick up tapes. I mean, could you imagine climbing over luggage at midnight because the bus just got in? They're like, well, go back there and look for it.
You got to look for it, yeah.
Yeah. I got to go get it.
Yeah.
And I could not come back to my head coach and be like, coach, I couldn't find it because that's unacceptable.
Absolutely. So my thing that I always wanted to ask you, but more importantly, I wanted you to be able to share with you name some key things that, you know, the process of going through your journey. I found that, you know, listening to that intuition, for me, also prayer, and for me also it is being a good steward over someone else's blessing.
Yes, sir.
You know, I shared that with you because that meant so much to me because I learned it from, and I don't take credit for that saying. I learned it from Vincent Brown, who was, I remember him coaching high school football, and you know, he played for Bill Parcells and the Patriots Super Bowl, but he's from an Atlanta native. But I watched him as defensive coordinator. They didn't win a game at Middle Creek High School. Yeah, and here he is turning around. He's now. His principal gets a call from Bill Parcells, and she didn't know who he was, so she hung up. And I know that part. And then next thing you know, Bill Parcells asked permission to interview him for a job at the Cowboys, and he was with the Cowboys in whatever capacity until Tony Romo bobbled that snap, and they they botched the kick, and then Parcells got out of football. But from there, he went with Mike London, and the rest is history. Because every time I saw him, his peaceful soul and the big hulking of a person and former NFL player. But I live by that principle, and I don't ask anybody to live by that principle. But I believe that it's important. And I don't know if today's society of coaches get it. It is truly a pilgrimage. It's relationship building.
It is.
And I want you to expound on what was it that, you know, you talked about the things at Morehouse that, you know, could have been, you know, that you know now. But what is it that you would share with a young coach who maybe didn't have all the things that you've done? And you didn't speak on the NFL internships, but I want you to hit on that as well. But
Okay.
What would you give a young coach who's trying to climb that ladder? Man,
first thing I would tell them is patience. It takes 10,000 reps to be an expert at something. Oh. And you have to be an expert at your craft. A lot of people were mad at me because I didn't hire them or I didn't give them a chance. And somebody actually approached me during the camp. And let me just tell the story. He approached me during the camp because I didn't give him an interview. And, first thing, we know this is a relationship business. Right. So the first question I got to ask is, who are you? Okay, and so you didn't know. I didn't know him. And this then
is when you're head coach at Morehouse.
Yes, when I'm head coach at Morehouse. And then he's talking to me about drills and stuff. And I was like, dude, that's great. I'm glad you know DB drills. And I'm glad you played in the league. But can you break down cover 3 for me? I need all 11 dudes versus all formations. I need motion adjustments. I need trips adjusted. I need 3-by-1. Are we running the safety? Are we rocking and rolling? Are we rolling weak? Are we rolling strong? We playing 3 buzz? How are we playing this? What's our fits? What's the corner's responsibility? Safety responsibility? Where's the odds? Where's the key reads? That's the language I need you to talk to me. I don't need you to talk to me about footwork drills. We can watch YouTube and get footwork drills. That's the easy part of the game. Oh my God! I need you to talk some coverage, and I'm not even getting sophisticated. I'm talking about cover 3.
Right.
Are we a pure spot drop? Are we a zone team? Are we a man zone team? How we man it? How we zone it? When we pass and what we doing? We matching because you can do all of that with cover 3.
Correct.
So I need you to give me some information. And he just kind of looked at me. I said, yeah, dude, like, I need the dudes I put in here and put on the board. I need them to be able to teach these kids and explain to them how we doing, what we doing, what it looked like, how we fit it. And one of the things I was very proud of myself, I've probably coached 4 or 5 different positions. So during practice, I would be with the DB coach, watching his drills, giving them tips. I go over to the wide receiver coach. I go over to the running back coach. Right. I go mess with the tight ends. Like, you know what I mean? I go down with the linebackers, watch them. You know what I mean? I go down with the D-line. Probably Coach Clayton, O-line coach, is probably the only dude I ain't mess with, right? But I didn't need to. Right. We coached against each other. I was Lehigh, he was Lafayette. We worked together at UMass. Like, I know what I was getting.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but you have to be patient, but you have to learn to master your craft.
That's powerful words. And I find a lot of times, especially when I talk to younger coaches or coaches in the game, and they always want to tell me what I can make you do with my motion against your defense. And a lot of times I'm looking at these young guys and I respect the energy. I respect the enthusiasm. But there is a method to the madness of this, such as what you said. Yeah. And a lot of times I just find that the patience involved in being good at something instead of just talking about everything, it's real. And it's almost like a lost art and I worry about the game because who's getting coached up now? You know?
Right. You got to have teachers. You got to have teachers, right? You're a teacher. You know, I taught Atlanta Public School, Fulton County, being in the classroom, right? Me versus 30. Like, like we got to get this done. We got to get the understanding. Right. We got to get everybody on the same page. So you have to be a great teacher, but also too, you have to be a great listener. You know, because sometimes kids will tell you things and you have to be able to take that information and turn it around. You know, that's one thing, like, for me, sometimes people mistake how I deliver passion. I'm not a big yeller and screamer most of the time. I'm not a big yeller and screamer because if my kid messed up during the game, he's going to be upset. Right. When I get him to the sideline, if I'm yelling and screaming, I can't get information to make adjustments.
Gotcha.
And I don't know how much time I have to have before I put them back out there. You know? And then the other thing, I think a lot of this, you know, young coaches are quick to pull a kid if he doesn't do well. Well, there's a reason why you started that kid, Right. So if you pull them and put somebody who's not as good, that kid knows. And the other kid you put in also knows he's only in there until you stop being mad at him, and then you're going to put him back in. You know what I mean? So, like, you have to think through all of that stuff as you do stuff. And you know, I had a young man when I was at Rice. He used to give me the flux. Great kid. Mm-hmm. One of the best corners I've ever coached. One of the best man-to-man dudes I ever coached. But if that ball wasn't in his zone, he wasn't chasing it. Mm. You know, and that was tough for me. And I could fire him, but I knew if I fired him on Saturday, head coach can be like, how come he not in the game?
Right.
And he don't care that he didn't chase a ball in practice. He's like, yo, he's the best cover corner we got. Why is he not in the game? Like, okay, right. We got to get him in the game and we got to fix the rest.
So do you think that, you know, the path that you had to get to the places that you've been, it is, you know, now you don't see coaches stay in places very long at all because, you know, everything that goes on with the portal and everybody wants to win now. There's no longer that process. So you don't even see a select head coaches staying in some place long time, but not a lot of coaches. But for you particularly, having been on the line of being a head coach in HBCU football, where do you see coaches moving forward along with the NCAA and everything that's progressing with what looks like is going to eventually be power conferences? But for HBCU coaches, and see, you've been on both ends.
Yeah.
And that's not something that a lot of coaches, African-American coaches, have been able to do. You've been able to pioneer that thing. There's those before you, but you were still able to do it. What do you foresee happening in the near future?
Well, first of all, let me address being on both sides of that equation.
Okay.
The thing that always helped me, yes, I went to Morehouse, but I was a business major.
Okay.
We learned how to interview. We learned how to dress.
Amen.
Right. We learned how to be professionals. And that's my thing is you have to be a professional at all times.
Right.
Right. And you got to know how to dress and you got to know how to carry yourself. And that's one thing I've always prided myself on. I know how to dress. I know how to carry myself. Sure. And I also know that I fully believe that if you give me an interview, I'm going to get the job. Mm-hmm. Right. Nobody's going to out interview me. And one thing I can do in my interviews is I can give you something and I can cite my sources. A lot of dudes can't cite their sources. They learned it one way or they're regurgitating somebody else's system. You know, you have to vary yourself enough when you have information, clinic talk, and you can cite your sources and tell people, you know. And it's funny, I go down that path because that was one of the things when I was at Morehouse and I would sit in meetings and I would say stuff and I would cite my sources. They would get mad at me because they said, well, this isn't Rice, or we don't have the money that Lehigh has. And I say, that is true, but you can still do something like that, right? I can go to the dollar store and get something like they sell at Target. It may not be an exact carbon copy, but there's a generic version of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Wow. So you just have to be a professional. But I think the biggest thing is just working at your craft. And here's the other thing. It's not so much that coaches won't stay. People are always trying to clip coaches. When guys don't have great seasons, they were looking for somebody to blame. And one thing Phil Elmation taught me, there I am, quoting the source, Phil Elmation taught me, when you point a finger at somebody, it's three fingers pointing back at yourself. So you better check yourself first. You know, and that's something I've always tried to do, like before I make a rash decision. Okay, what role did I play in this? Right. Did I enable this? Did I help this? Right. Or is this totally out my control? Or what can I do to fix it? So I think that's that. I think there has to be some loyalty, but also understand that loyalty can disappear in a heartbeat.
Wow. That's powerful words.
Yeah.
Meaning it used to be there.
It used to be there. Something changed. You know, and sometimes the dynamics of your staff changes, which changes loyalties, you know, and my last year at Lehigh, We go 8-3. I had lost my linebacker coach. We hired back the guy who had been the defensive coordinator 10 years before,
Right.
was boys with the head coach. He wanted my job.
Mm.
So there was things that was happening that I had to manage. So when the head coach set me down and he was like, well, you know, we've decided not to renew your contract. I was like, so I'm fired. He was like, well, no, I wouldn't quite say that. We're just not going to renew your contract.
Okay.
That equals fired, right?
Right?
So I said, all right. I said, well, since I'm fired, do you want to know what the real problems were? And then I just gave it to him. He pulled out a notepad, started writing.
Wow.
Right. And
So
I said, he knew. I don't think he really knew, but once I gave it to him,
he knew
and I
that.
just let it go. Like, look, I've been managing this. These are the things I've been managing. These are the things I've been having. This is stuff I deal with on a weekly basis. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you can check the stats. I think since I left, my last season was 2013. I don't know if they've had the top 10 defense since 2013. I was there 10 years. I had over 35 DBs be all conference.
Right.
I'm averaging like almost 4 a year on the all conference team. You can check the stats. I don't think they're doing that now.
Wow. As we wrap up, I want to ask you, what's the next move for you, G? What's the next move? I mean, coach is in your blood, but what journey would you like to take from here after the journey that you've completed at Morehouse? That's the real question I want to know, because you know we are in this game, and we do have something to give back to the game. But for you, how does that narrow down for you?
You know, I'm a linear person, so in my mind, I feel like I need to go back, reset myself, you know, get in somebody's program, get the coaching going, go back to being a coordinator, then come back and be a head coach, because I know I can be a good head coach. Right. You know, I was only given 9, 10 months, came in after recruiting, got fired before recruiting started. So there's a lot of things I know I can do. Right. I also know that the things I did in a lot of other places will be received with open arms.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because I was setting my dudes up for success.
Right.
I was recruiting like they had never recruited before, because Morehouse is a national name. I understand national recruiting. Right. You know, I've recruited probably 35 different states, right, you know, and been successful. So, like, I need to get back to something like that. But I think initially it's just getting back on somebody's staff, and then from there becoming a coordinator, and then go back to being a head coach, you know, because we're all competitive.
Yes, yes.
And I feel like my legs got chopped, so I want to go back, compete, and show people what I'm capable of doing. You know what I'm saying? Give me one of these nice head coaches jobs. Give me about 15 years in the chair. Let me win a couple of championships, and I'm going to shut it down.
Then you're going to shut it down, because I need for you to, and I'm going to laugh because you know I'm about to say, you know, I had that year when I didn't coach, and my wife she's ready to put me out the house. I was getting in the way, and sports fans, I tell you, I was getting in the way, and she told me, she said she was used to being a coach's wife. So she said, when football season starts, you know, you're not in here like at home, so you need to get out the way. So I got in trouble for putting up dishes to washing clothes. So, brother, I feel what you're saying, and sports fans, I'm quite sure the next time I have G on the show, he'll be coaching somewhere, because his wife is gonna make sure he get back.
What she gonna pack? So let me drop one more quick tidbit for the young guys.
Yeah,
old dude told me this, that when you go someplace, right, unpack all your stuff, get comfortable. The stuff you're not using, pack it up, put it in the box, seal the box, put the box in the corner, or put the box in the basement. You already got a head start on your next move.
Amen.
You're ready to the game.
That's what I'm talking about. I appreciate you, my brother. It is great talking to you. Thank you
sir.
For enlightening those that watch this and view this about just the path, the journey. You've been on all levels with this. So you're kind of like something different. Everybody hasn't done it that way. And the great part about it, you're still humble about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And it doesn't hurt that you're a great friend of mine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sports fans, thank you for sitting in with us. I wanted you all to hear just from one coach to another. This is Coach One Sports. Remember, if you like the show, you enjoy it, please subscribe, please like, please share. Once again, thank you, Coach Gerard Wilcher, climbing the coaching ladder. Had a great time just sitting in with him, and we just sit back, kick back, and talk. Thank you for joining the show. We appreciate you. Until next time, Coach One Sports. We'll see you later.